got some front end parts that are actually ready to assemble, and so I'm going to get right to that. Here we have the triple tree. I've cleaned out the bearings and the races. I've put a layer of grease on the race, and then the grease is actually holding on the ball bearings. I've inspected the races very carefully to make sure that there's no shiny spots or deviations in it. And I've actually done the same to the top. As you can see, it's well greased, and the bearings are being held in kind of like glue using the wheel bearing grease. I've also have the keeper cap right there, and it has grease as well. Remember, we talked about this, that if there's threads on it, they have to be treated with something, and this is what we treat them with. Then this is the upper race, and it's been greased as well. So I carefully just take my triple tree in my upper race, and I grease the lower race inside the headset. Can't see this, but I'm going to show you. And I just very simply assembled that, pushed the triple tree up into the headset, and then put the race on top, and then put my keeper nut on top of that. I'm going to assemble another section. I'm going to go off right now, and then I'll show you the next section for assembly. So let's pre-assemble the upper triple. I've used axle grease on the threads for the pinch nut. Right? On this nut, I've used grease as well because it's steel on steel. Put all that stuff together. Inside the dampener rubber hole, the holes for the dampener rubber, I put a little bit of grease so these dampeners slide in easily enough. And then on the dampeners themselves, I use a little assembly grease so I can put in the handlebar holders. This one's pre-assembled. This one's pre-assembled. Just slide that in there. Now on this one, you might notice that on the handlebar holder there might be there's likely going to be a little peen or an index mark. That index mark goes forward on the Hondas. I'm going to put in the handlebar holder. It doesn't make any difference if it's forward or backwards. And then the index mark is going to go forward towards the headlight. This is steel that is being screwed into aluminum. Steel screwed into aluminum, I use anti-seize compound, not grease. Takes more pressure. This is made by Permatex. It's cheap. Any auto parts store, maybe $3 or $4. And that's good for pre-assembly. I mean, obviously I'm going to have to take these caps off to put the bars on, right? But we know that all the hardware isn't good and it's going to come apart easily. Okay. The handlebar holders on the bottom, we do not want those to come off. Permatex thread lock, red. One little drop on each threaded component. I'm still, even though that the thread lock is going to hold the nut on really nicely, I still want to use the lock washers because aesthetically, using the lock washers is correct. Lock washers are actually kind of moot at this point. I mean, the red Loctite is actually going to satisfy the holding needs of that particular component. Okay? I'm going to put an axle in the bar mount to hold it so I can tighten these bar holder nuts down to spec. Okay. There's some flex to them. So this is a unit ready to assemble, correct? And I'm going to put that on. Before I put that on though, I notice that there's a little like grunge on the chrome nut that holds that on. I'm going to show you how I do this. When I have nuts and washers and stuff that I need to just polish up a little bit before I install them, take mothers, love the stuff, put some mothers on this assembly sheet that I always have underneath all my stuff, and I rub some mothers onto the fabric. Now when I want to polish up this washer, it looks like this. All I do is just rub it on my assembly sheet, and then it's brand new again. So here we go. We're going to look at this. I'm going to put on my upper triple. So I've dropped on the upper triple. I've greased the threads of the locking nut. I polished the washer up. And this is going to be assembled, but I am not going to tighten it down because I have to put in the fork ears first. And then once the fork ears are in, then it'll be then I'll go ahead and tighten everything up. So there you go. There's the triple tree and the upper triple ready for more parts. I'll be right back. So here's the right side foot peg that's already assembled. I can't bolt it to the frame, which bolts on over there. And the reason is because the engine's got to be in before this one can actually be put in. But I can do this other side for you and bolt this one in. So this is where the foot peg actually mounts to the frame, and it's okay to put this one in. You see that the spring goes over, the return spring actually goes over the foot peg itself, and then this little hook hooks on the side of the frame on the inside, so it returns when it's lifted. I've already put grease on the pin itself. Pin goes in. I put on a washer on the back, and then a cotter key, and then I just bend the cotter key over. I only like bending one side of the cotter key because it looks really clean that way. Just to bend half the cotter key, unless it's protruding out, and then if it's protruding out, then I actually cut it. So that's the way that's supposed to work. You see that? These are those custom-made pegs. On the frame itself, every place that you actually see a threaded insert into the frame, I've actually already greased them. So there's a couple places where battery boxes mount, and other little apparatuses like air cleaners and such. So I've already greased all those things. Then as far as the headset goes, this locking nut that I actually installed, because I've got to back up to that, that's only hand tight, but it's very, very snug hand tight. Alright? And this is all greased and put together, but it's not locked down tight because I'm waiting to put in the fork ears, which is going to be really close in the assembly because I'm going to put the front forks on and put the wheels on as well. This is going to move back and forth very smoothly, and you're not going to feel any friction at all in the play of the triple tree. Okay, so we did the lower triple, the upper triple as a pre-assembled part, one foot peg ready for installation, which is a ready-made foot peg, and then one foot peg on the frame itself, which can stay there. It won't be in the way. I'll be right back. Here we go with the rear swing arm assembly. This is the swing arm pivot bolt. You can see that the Zert fitting has been removed. I'm going to put that on later. This is right side bushing, and this is the left side bushing. Note on the SL350 the right side bushing is just slightly shorter, so don't screw that up because it'll make for a heck trying to get that swing arm in. These are the inner bushings, and then these are the outer bushings that actually get tapped into the swing arm. They're going to be all greased inside outside before I tap them in. This is the frame side, inner frame oil seal or grease seal, I would say. They clip on, or they're just made out of rubber, and there's a groove on the frame that holds them, and then that way when you actually fill the axle full of grease, it doesn't get grease everywhere, and these act as seals. And then these are the outer seals, which would be just on the inside of the frame component, right here, on both sides. I'm going to grease all this stuff up, tap in these bushings, these outer bushings, and then I'll see if I can assemble the inner bushings and all the seals on video. Be right back. Back again, so check this out. I've assembled the entire right side, and you can see that I pushed the grease seal tight onto the swing arm first, and then the right side grease seal, which is actually steel encased, is also installed, as well as the inner bushing. The bushings go on really quite easy, and they're supposed to because they have to spin freely, so I'm going to slide that bushing in all greased up like it's supposed to be. Put on my dust seal. And since I need two hands, and I hope you can see this, I'm going to slide my swing arm in, just like that. Line up the hole, and push my grease axle through. Now that the greased axle's in, I'm going to align the inner grease seal onto the little cutout that was machined into the frame when it was manufactured. Remove the excess grease. Put in the put on the nut. Make sure to grease the threads on the nut. And again, not tighten it. I'm not going to tighten it. And we'll be right back with you in a little bit with some more stuff. So here's the final part of assembling this swing arm pivot. I've cleaned up the zert that allows grease to go in through the center of the swing arm pivot. The swing arm pivot is actually hollow. And I have chosen an appropriately sized 1/4-inch socket on a driver, and I'm putting the zert in there so I don't do any damage to it. So you don't want to hit these with a hammer because you'll ruin them. So I've chosen a socket that'll just catch the lip of the zert and not damage the face of it. I'm inserting it and then just giving it a little tap and just a barely little pressure fit. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this up now, put the zert on the other side, and then fill the swing arm pivot with grease until I see it gushing out the seals. And then I'm going to clean it all up, and then that'll be good to go. We'll see you in a little bit.